Hello everyone, it's with great pleasure that I'm here tonight. I was actually admitting to esteemed President Muhammad Ali that this is actually the first time I've heard about the Australian Forum. I've actually been overseas for a period of time working on a variety of programs, but last but not least was in Vietnam. And so when I actually heard about this forum, I was really keen to be one of the speakers, because I think it's just such a wonderful opportunity to have an open dialogue at the community level in Canberra, because so often we do see those official positions that are presented, and actually having the chance to talk with you tonight is going to be probably a highlight of my week. But to get onto the more official messages that I do have to deliver in my capacity in the Department of Foreign Affairs, I thought the first thing would to really just give a quick overview of Australia's aid program. I'm not really sure about people's knowledge in the room, and I just thought it would be useful to talk a little bit about the aid policy and some of the key messages that are in the new, that are the main priorities that we're trying to achieve through Australian government support. The Australian Government Aid Program reflects Australian values and our commitment to reducing poverty and lifting living standards through sustainable economic growth. Since the release of the policy in June 2014, the aid program has taken a stronger focus on private sector development, including aid for trade, in recognition that the private sector is the primary driver of economic growth and poverty reduction. This has been a slight shift in previous policy, where we are really now recognising that economic growth is essential if we're looking at sustainable development. As I said before, increasing economic opportunities is a necessary precondition for sustainable poverty reduction, but it is also important to acknowledge that some groups can be left behind. For this reason, Australia remains firmly committed to assisting the most disadvantaged, including people with disability, find pathways out of poverty. Australia continues to invest in human development, recognising that education, health, gender equality and women's empowerment are essential to building a skilled and competitive workforce and lifting living standards. The aid policy positions the aid program to be more innovative and catalytic, and to leverage other drivers of development, such as private sector investment and domestic finance. I'm not sure if many of you have followed a lot of the global development agenda, but some of you would know this term sort of called the 2030 agenda, which is really a new approach to sustainable development and the introduction of 17 sustainable development goals. As a part of that process, there was a conference in Addis last year that was talking about how can we mobilise finance to actually support sustainable development globally, recognising that there are still significant challenges left behind since the completion of the Millennium Development Goals. And one of the things that they realised is that ODA is actually taking up a smaller space, that we need to start leveraging other sources of finance, such as foreign direct investment, which in 2014 stood at $680 billion, in addition to remittances, which also in that year was $430 billion. This together represents more than 8 times the $130 billion given in official development assistance every year. So you can see that while grant aid is really important and official development assistance is really important, we need to look at new ways of trying to mobilise private sector investment, remittances, and also the domestic revenue that's being mobilised in the countries that we're trying to help. So it is through new and innovative partnerships that we can support partner governments in mobilising the resources that they need to fund their own economic development and poverty reduction strategies. Aid alone is not enough. This financial year, the Australian Government will spend more than $4 billion in official development assistance. And a fundamental part of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade's management of the aid program is to ensure that our funds are effective, accountable and deliver results. The performance framework for the aid program, known as Making Performance Count, reinforces directions set out in the aid policy. It enhances accountability and a stronger focus on results and value for money. The way that we assess performance is strengthened at all levels of the aid program. At the strategic level, there was the introduction of 10 high-level targets, ensuring that the aid program is well managed and is delivering against key government priorities. In those 10 targets, there include measures for ensuring value for money, for example, and putting in place fraud and anti-corruption strategies for all of our major country and regional programs. At the country program level, there are performance benchmarks to assess the effectiveness of our portfolio investments in each of the countries. And we also have these benchmarks mutually agreed with our partners so that we're both working in the same direction to achieve the same development outcomes. And at the project level, we have robust quality systems to ensure that funding is directed to investments that are making the most difference. And we have monitoring and evaluation strategies embedded in all of our investments with rigorous performance benchmarks, and we also assess every year the quality of those investments to make sure that they are delivering the outcomes that we're setting to achieve. Those familiar with Australia's aid policy will know that it contains a clear commitment to high standards of transparency and accountability in the management of the aid program. And this commitment is being achieved in a number of ways. Information on the aid program is regularly published in DFAT's website, including policies, plans, evaluations and research. And the website provides comprehensive information on how much aid we give, where we provide assistance, in what way, and the results that we are achieving. For example, 25 aid investment plans, which are like country strategies to guide our support, have been available on the website since their release in September last year. And they describe where, why, and how Australian aid will be delivered, and how we'll monitor that aid in our partner countries. 19 independent operational evaluations were released last financial year, and the Office of Development Effectiveness, located within DFAT, published 8 strategic evaluations in 2015, with oversight from an independent evaluation committee. We use those evaluations to build lessons and an understanding of what's worked, what hasn't, and why. And we actually actively look at those lessons to inform our future programming. And some of you might be aware that in February this year, we actually released the Performance of Australian Aid report. And this report actually provides a rich amount of detail about the performance of the aid program, including progress against the 10 targets that I mentioned before, and also performance at global, country and regional levels. Again, we try and have a frank assessment and share lessons so that other donors and stakeholders have an understanding of some of the challenges of aid delivery in the countries where we work. We've also committed to international efforts to improve transparency and accountability of official development assistance. And this includes participation in the International Aid Transparency Initiative, which sets a global standard for the publication of aid data. Meeting high standards of transparency and accountability in the delivery of the aid program is an ongoing effort, and it can be at times quite resource intensive, but the effort is worth it. Transparency is not just about increasing Australian government accountability to the public, although that's an important part. Making more information available also helps partner governments to better plan and manage donor funds. Transparency enables citizens of countries in which we work to hold their own governments accountable for the amount of aid that they receive. And making information publicly available also supports other donors and development agencies to better coordinate their efforts and contribute to global knowledge on development. So we really do feel that putting information up on the public space allows researchers, global thinkers and others to really start looking at some of the lessons and how we can address some of the challenges. There's no sort of silver bullet to address some of the development issues we face. It's a multifaceted approach, and we need to draw all the resources together to apply the lessons learned and not to make the mistakes of the past and to build success. So I'm really looking forward to the other perspectives from the colleagues at the table, and I'm really looking forward to the questions and answers later this evening. Thank you.